Well, hey everybody, welcome to the shop. So today, as you saw in the thumbnail, bought a generator. Reason being is, back in February, we got back from Florida. We were back for about 4 days, I think, and we lost power for 5 days. And then a week later, we lost power for another day. And you'll see in the background, that little guy right here, basically we used it to keep the food cold in the fridge. And we couldn't flush the toilet, we couldn't do any of that stuff. Obviously we didn't have hot water, couldn't take showers, couldn't do anything. We had no light, except when we plugged this little guy in to like charge our cell phones. So we went out and purchased, as you saw in the thumbnail, this generator. Now this generator is actually 10 years old. It only had 0.8 hours of runtime. So what I want to do is show you how to test the outlets on a generator to make sure that they work. So if you're going to buy a used one, which you can test. Now, the person I bought this from, little old lady, they bought it, never used it, she said. So first thing I did was check to make sure it had oil in it. It had oil. Then I checked and she said, oh, there's no fuel in it, no fuel in it. When I opened it up, there was fuel in it, and I have no idea how old that fuel is, but it started and it ran. I was able to check the outlets to make sure they kicked out 120 and 240 volts. So that's what I want to show you guys how to do today, is how to check that. And then I'm going to go over a couple other things on this generator, because since it's 10 years old, I want to change the oil on it, because it could have gotten moisture in the oil. I just want to change it from a safety standpoint. I spent $400 for this used generator. This is a $1,000 generator new, and with only 0.8 hours on it, basically I got a brand new generator. So I'm going to just go through a couple of things afterward, after testing the outlets. If you want to stick around, you can watch, how you change the oil, check the air filter. There is a spark arrestor you can check. And there's also a, it looks like a little screen on the fuel filter at the fuel shutoff that you can also check, for debris and stuff. So I'm going to go through all those things just to make sure everything's good, because it's nice now, right? And if we get a storm pop up or something and we lose power, which we've had the problem in the past during the summertime too, I want to make sure it's working and functioning fine, because my wife, was basically had it without having a backup generator now. So anyway, let's flip the camera around and go through some of this. All right, guys, so I actually lost part of my video when I filmed the other day. About the purchasing a used generator. Maybe a few things to think about when you go to inspect one or look at one. One is, check the oil level and the condition of the oil. For example, is it low on oil? Is the oil dark and dirty and black, for example, right? Tells you that maybe it was lack of maintenance. Look at the air filter. Is it dirty? Is it clogged? That type of thing. Check the fuel tank, especially if it is a metal tank. Is it rusty inside? That may indicate that it's sat out, got some water in it. Also, check obviously the condition of the frame. Is it rusty? Is there, the fasteners rusty, on the, the motor or the generator part, that it's sat out in the weather a lot. When you maybe message the person before you go inspect it, to make sure they don't pre-start it. The reason being is, if it's pre-started, when it's warm, obviously it'll be easier to start when you get there. So, put your hand on the motor, or, don't just stick your hand on it, maybe put it close to it and, feel if there's any warmth to it. If you don't feel that, warm sensation on your hand, then maybe touch it. So that way that the engine's cold and it hasn't been pre-started. If it has electric start, obviously try to use it. If it also has, pull start, try to use it. Most of them are going to have pull start. There's not a lot of, battery start out there, but definitely try it. Try to start it cold, like I mentioned, so that way you can see how difficult it might be to start. Look at the hours on the hour meter if it has one. If it doesn't have one, it could be a 20-year-old generator that, you're potentially buying. Look for what I call the DOM, or date of manufacture. The newer ones should have DOM, and then like 0419, 04 being the month, 19 being the year. At least when it was manufactured. Let's see. You know, stick with the name brand if you can. You know, there's several good name brands out there, and there's some other brands that, you know, I haven't heard of before. You know, like the Genrex is a good name brand. Briggs and Stratton's, you know, name brand. You know, so those are some of the couple ones off the top of my head. And there's, you know, some out there I've never heard of before. You know, and then obviously do the load test, which you'll see in a minute. You know, where you take your voltmeter and, you know, it's really not a load test, but at least it's a way to check that there's there's voltage coming out of the generator and the plugs, you know, whether it be 240 or 120. So anyway, those are just a couple of quick things, you know, to check when you're, you know, looking at a used generator. I'm sure there's a lot more things that you could check, but those are some at least basic things. Like you could take the spark plug out if you really wanted to and check the condition of the spark plug. Is it worn? You know, is it even the right one? You know, I've seen that. You know, so those are just general ideas things, you know, to look at on a used one. So I don't know if you guys can read the hour meter or not, but that reads now 1.2 hours. You know, I've ran it for a little bit after I got it home and put in some, you know, fuel additive into this, you know, some seafoam, just to help with the fuel, and I put some fresh fuel in it as well. But let me get my meter out here. So this isn't going to read anything right now. The key is just as well, it's quiet, and I can explain this to you to show you. Now this is a 30 amp outlet. You may have a 20 amp. The only difference between the 20 and the 30 is the 30, the lug goes here, if you notice, goes inward and up. On a 20 amp, the lug here will go outward and down. That's the only difference really. So what you want to do is you want to measure the two opposite of the lugs. So in other words, I want to measure this one and this one, okay? Not this and this. All right, you want to measure the opposite of the lug. So I want to measure this one, for example. I want to measure these two like this. So as far as your normal 120 volt outlets, just go across the two here. And that way you can check, and again, you should have somewhere between 120 and 125 volt while the generator's running. So you just stick your meter in there, pop them in there, and then, you know, read your meter reading. And it should read, like I said, 120 to 125. So this is the meter I use. It's just an Amazon one. I think they're like $20 or something like that. You know, it's a nice little meter. It's done me very well. All right, guys, so on my generator, you can see here's the fill plug and here's the drain plug. So just gonna loosen up the drain plug into my oil pan, and you can see it looks nice and clean and brand new, but again, being 10 years old, I'd rather put some fresh oil in it. It's, you know, a quart of oil is cheap compared to buying an entirely new generator. So we're gonna go ahead and fill this up with some 5W30 weight synthetic. That way it will have a nice range of oils, temperatures, I'm sorry, from I think it's like 20 below to 100 degrees, you know, Fahrenheit. You know, if you run like 30 weight only, it's like 40 degrees to 80 degrees or something. I'll try to put in a chart right here while this is draining of the various oil ranges, but I'm going to run a 5W30 synthetic in this generator. All right, you can pretty much see she's done, so we'll put the plug back in it now, and then we'll fill this up with oil. I'm not sure how much it's going to take. I'm thinking quart and a half, but I'll let you know when I'm done how much it actually took. All right, guys, so here's what I was talking about underneath the fuel shutoff valve. This basically unscrewed. All right. Well, the fuel looked all good under there. Anyway, looks like there's no sediment or anything in this, so looks like the fuel is clean. So we'll go ahead and put this all back up in there since everything looks good. So this is pretty simple, guys. Check your air filter. You can see 2 screws, 1 on either side there. 8mm if you like using sockets like I do versus a flathead. And you know, it just sets in there like so. Basically I just wanted to check it again just to make sure it wasn't, you know, got all soaking wet or, you know, anything funky happened to it. So it looks nice and spotless inside. So we'll go ahead and put this back together. So when they talk about checking your spark arrestor, it's right here. You need to remove these 4 fasteners, take this cover off, and then, you know, basically if you look right here in the manual, that little guy is your spark arrestor. So if there's damage, then, you know, the screen is damaged or blown out or anything, you would want to replace that little piece. The other thing they talk about is here is, you know, to check your cooling system. Really this is air cooled. What they're talking about is removing this cover and just making sure there's no debris packed up inside of this. And then here is that scale I was talking about for your oil filter. I'm sorry, your oil change. And that's why I'm running synthetic 5W30 in mine. You can see the different scales here for the temperature. And let's see, oh, here is where I was just checking, you know, the screen. You know, here's the fuel shutoff valve, and there's what I was just checking to make sure that was all good. And here is your general maintenance schedule. So you can see after 5 hours you're supposed to change oil, but since this has been 10 years, I went ahead and changed it. You can see what you're supposed to do at each time frame. You know, after every 8 hours of use, you're supposed to check your oil level because this will use some oil. So anyway, you check your filters and your spark plug and all that fun stuff. Now, if you do want to inspect your spark plug, here's your spark plug wire, there is your spark plug. So here is the muffler on mine, just so you can get an idea of what you'll need to do to, you know, remove this, and then you can get access to your spark plug and take it out. Again, since this is pretty much only 1.2 hours run time, I'm not going to pull this guy out, although I probably should, just to make sure that it's not seized in the cylinder head, but and put a little anti-seize on it just to be safe. That might not be a bad idea. You can see basically I just put spark plug socket on there with no extension or anything, and she just came right out. So let's see if we can, all right, I'll have to take this out here in just a second and I'll show you what it looks like. And so you can see a part number as well in case you need to replace yours. If this is a steel thread and an aluminum cylinder head, I'm going to put just a touch of anti-seize on the threads of the spark plug just so it, you know, we don't have any problems with it. It's just something I like to do. So guys, I hope this short little video helps you at least how to, if you're going to purchase a generator like off Marketplace, Craigslist, an auction, garage sale, whatever, right? That, you know, get it running, make sure it runs, and then check the outlets. You can see it's real easy to do with a basic voltmeter. Obviously you can plug in something into the 120 outlets, you know, like a circular saw, something to run, leaf blower, whatever. But the 240 is a little harder, you know, to lug something around to check it. So at least check it with a voltmeter to make sure the output is there. Hopefully when you get it home and it's under an actual load condition, it works. But at least you can check it, and prior to purchasing it, laying out your hard-earned money and, you know, finding out it doesn't work. So with that said, guys, hope this little video helps you on some general maintenance as well as how to really just inspect one. Like I said, I wouldn't buy one that's not running unless, you know, you want to go through the headache, you know, or you spent only a, you know, less than 50 bucks for it or something, and you want to check it and get it running or something like that. But yeah, anyway, like I said, I picked up this one for 400 bucks off Marketplace. They were asking 450. I got them to 400. I was happy with it. They were happy. You know, this is a 6,000 watt run. I think it's 7,500, you know, start. So anyway, it should, you know, take care of what we need to do, which is, you know, basically the heater in the wintertime, you know, the sump pump, you know, we can run the water heater, some key lights, the refrigerator, you know, and we have a couple of key lights in the house that will run, and a couple of outlets, so we can at least charge our cell phones up. So anyway, guys, take care. Thanks for watching. See you guys on a future upload.